Okay, over in the last 30 years in Singapore real estate, I've seen multiple global crises. First came Asian crisis in 98, and then 911. Then came SARS in 2003, and then global financial crisis in 2008. And most recently, COVID. Whenever this uncertainty happens, many of my clients will be in a panic state, especially those who are ready to go into buying and or those who own multiple properties. Okay, a lot of questions in their mind whether should they sell now and wait for the market to fall and then buy it back, or maybe should hold, or maybe should just liquid everything and then leave it there. So with the rising tensions between US and Iran, with the rising oil prices and the fragile global economy, this is actually a valid concern. So in this video, I'm going to touch on what's happening globally, how it will affect the world economy, and also touch on Singapore's exposure, and most important, what does it mean for you and your property. When conflict involved in major oil-producing region, the first and immediate impact is energy prices. Why does it matter? Because 20% of the oil supplies pass through these Straits of Hormuz, which is, as of now, is already been closed. That means to say shippings and everything's prices will keep going up. And this doesn't mean only your petrol. It affects your shipping, air travel, manufacturing, utilities, and food productions. So increase in oil prices means there's an increase in production costs, which means inflation. If inflation rises again, central banks like US Federal Reserve, MAS, might delay interest rate cuts. And if the war keeps going on, then the central banks might even increase interest to bring down the inflations. So this will definitely leads to slower investments from the businesses, and definitely will increase your mortgage loan. When crisis happens, money will flow into a place that's safe and stable. And for the past 30 years, I've seen Singapore have benefited from a lot of this kind of global crisis, okay, due to its strong governments and transparent legal systems. So property in stable city like Singapore often benefits from that. Okay, let's be real. Okay, Singapore is a small, open economy. Our trade volume is multiple times of our GDP. Okay, and we import nearly all our energy. So higher oil prices definitely will affect us. It will affect our business operating costs. It will raise our transports and food prices, and definitely will add pressure to inflation. So the key difference is Singapore governments usually intervene early with policy that stabilize the economy, so that we actually absorb better than other countries. So let's look at the history. Okay, Asian crisis, which happened in 1997, 1998, okay, the property prices fell significantly because it was a regional financial collapse. Then in 2008, the global financial crisis actually priced it correct, but it actually went up and recovered within a few years. Okay, so recently the COVID-19 also, a lot of people predicted a crash in Singapore property market. But instead, prices rose from 2021 onwards. So why? Because there's a lot of confidence, local and foreign, in Singapore governments. And capital keep flowing into Singapore, and that's how Singapore stay intact. So the key takeaways is Singapore's property market is actually mainly affected by domestic unemployment and interest rate compared to geopolitical events. Okay, so right now in Singapore, our employment rates actually is relatively stable, okay, and new loan supplies is controlled, cooling measure prevents speculations, and banks remains well capitalized. So these fundamentals actually keep us resilient. However, let's not ignore the risks. There are three indicators that I am watching closely. First, oil prices. If it remains at extreme level, then it might reignite inflation. And secondly, interest rates elevated longer than expected. And third, a sharp global recession that will affect Singapore job market. So if employments weaken, property demands weaken. But if the global crisis continue and Singapore remain resilient like what we had in COVID, we might actually see an inflow of capital than outflow. So is Singapore a safe haven? So based on 30 years market cycle, I would say yes. But we are not immune to volatility, and property prices don't always just go up. So if you're buying for own stay, then should focus on affordability and the stability over time. And for those who are buying for investment, then the fundamentals like locations and entry price is important. So if you do have some more questions, you can actually put your comments in the comment sections, or you can contact me directly. And I'll see you in our next video.